Hey YouTube. I just real quick wanted to read something that I wrote, and it's actually in response to an article that lists all of the different real estate deals that China is doing all over the nation, and we're talking major: 800,000, 265,000, 350,000, 235,000, 215,000 acreage that China has at least got 1/3 shares in. And we're talking about major ports, security risks to our national security, and everything. Um, Now, what I wrote in response is this, and this is referring to the whole Bundy Ranch incident. With the exposure of the secret deals Harry Reid was making with China, I think you're pretty much saying the same thing I have been all along. China is moving in to control and subdue America with the help of our own politicians, no doubt. They are making Trojan horse deals and selling us out. Rusty Hall, a former Kansan, son of a rancher and now from Nevada, used to be a scout, surveyor, and contractor for spotting land for BLM. He knows real estate like the back of his hand, and especially out there in the Bunkerville area of Nevada. Between the mountains to the east, the Lake Mead Reservoir, and the ridges to the west, with limited access, there is a huge swath of land that is ideal for both industrial and military application because it is so defensible. And Harry Reid and the BLM have been booting families out of the region for 20 plus years, probably more, transferring title to the USA and then transferring title to Reid Bunkerville LLC for $0, partitioning up 600-acre parcels into smaller ones to increase the value, and then just making deals with China supposedly to put in a solar farm. And no doubt that's a front company. But what they really want is the land for a military industrial base. And if a Chinese company wants the area and buys it, then they will see it as a Chinese, they'll see it as Chinese soil. Like a consulate or an embassy, only hundreds of thousands of acres. Chinese corporations are not private, but similar to communist Russia or Nazi Germany, they are entities of the state. So this is literally the Chinese government buying land in America. And this land just happens to be mineral rich with magnesium and other things for munitions and solid rock fuel. So what I'm thinking is, and this is just my observation, since it is so remote, it is the perfect place to have a munitions factory and a troop garrison, be able to make man pads, that's man portable air defense system, or like a Stinger missile, and other munitions on the spot, so they wouldn't have to import any weapons. They could just make them. And be within striking distance of both Las Vegas and Nellis Air Base, which is less defensible than the area included in the deal with China. This is not a good thing. Harry was making a deal that would have put boots on the ground right within our borders, and he is not the only one that did this to their state. It's all over, folks. Just think, the Bundy Ranch thing is just one situation. This is going on all over the West and probably headed toward the same results. But the good thing about this is that it took one man to say no. And that tripped the dominoes, uncovered a lot of treasonous activity, and probably ruined the whole game Reid was trying to play. He is up Schitt's Creek. You can guarantee it. Because I'm sure this deal was dependent on secrecy and the cat is out of the bag now. Too many people know the jig is up. Since the executive branch is silent about it, instead hinting at unruly children possibly being terrorists and pushing for more gun control funding, I think it's safe to say they are letting Harry flounder. Since he screwed up, he has to fix it. And he's no tactician. He was just lucky nobody pushed back before. And the more Harry says, the more he loses the PR battle. On the flip side, the executive can't say anything or he will lend credibility to the militia and the Bundy Ranch and look scared. But if he says nothing, he will look weaker than he already looks. It's quite a quandary he's in. So I'm thinking something big is in the works while they distract us with a bunch of nonsense. They may wait a while to try and go after the Bundy family with their supporters because midterm elections are coming. And that would really ruin things. But regardless, the longer they wait, the less potent they look. And if they come back after de-escalating, then they will not only look like aggressors, but will lose the public entirely. Nobody likes a bully, especially a spoiled sport of one. So they are really in a corner. Anything they do will lose. It's checkmate, and they are playing checkers. What I think we have to look at is all the subtle things that a public servant says to the news when they speak. For instance, the blip Obama put on the radar about nukes being dropped in Manhattan. If you remember, he said that right as the Malaysian flight MH370 was being searched for. But I think something else happened. There is technology available to the military right now. And Russia has a version called Nightshade. Look it up. It's on YouTube. You can find it. That can not only make an aircraft disappear from radar, but project false blips. And the missing plane's path on the radar fits this profile. Keep in mind, anyone could be in on it, but interestingly, India just purchased a bunch of these Nightshade units from China. So they are in theater in the area. The next thing is Rothschild owns a company called Freescale, who is developing a lot of black bag technology, rumored to be working on electronic stealth technology, and just developed a microprocessor that fits in a golf ball dimple at least 9 times. This is a huge leap in technology because it will enable the miniaturizing of the best desktop gaming rig, or better, into the package of the average smartphone. Think about that. Now, just think what a few pieces of luggage with Nightshade-style technology could have done to a passenger jet on the radar. So this was first and foremost a test. The next thing this is Rothschild owns a company called Freescale who was developing a lot of black bag technology. Okay, well, the next thing is that hostile takeover of the patents for this microprocessor. It just so happens that 20 senior execs from the Freescale company were on that jet. 4 of them were patent applicants. And since they are either missing or more than likely dead, that leaves, you guessed it, Rothschild and Freescale as the sole benefactors to the patent. Couldn't have worked out more in their favor. What a stroke of luck for them to have the plane just go missing. Right. But it gets more interesting. Plane spotters in Israel spotted and documented from the airport's own logs that back in 2013, around October, the sister plane to the missing flight was being stored in Tel Aviv. Why? This is the really interesting part. Both planes were manufactured by Boeing for Malaysia Airlines at the same time. I used to work for a supplier, so I have a bit of inside info. Both planes would have the same lot number stenciled on the aluminum for the skin of the aircraft. Thus, it would be easy to pass off one plane as the other and fake a debris field, which is why they haven't found it yet. And they still have to create a debris field. But why do you ask is this significant? Since this was a successful test of stealth technology without the aircraft being a stealth composite aircraft and being able to hide from radar, this would be the perfect delivery vehicle for a nuke over Manhattan. And I think this is the ace in the hole they were counting on if things got to the point they felt they lost control. They needed something big to divert the population and put us all in shock, and they need something to blame the militia or Syria or Iran or Russia. But the Bundy Ranch standoff is why they don't know what to do right now, because one cowboy stood up to it. If they do the new thing, it'll be too much, too over the top. The militia obviously doesn't have the means to gain access to nuclear firepower. To blame it on Iran at this point would be way too early. Not all the pawns are in place or ducks in a row, and they have to create a dramatic lead-up to prime people's minds for an attack from Iran. To blame it on Russia would mean that there would be total nuclear war, and I don't think they really would be so fast to push that button too much right now. There's too much room for error, and it places them at too much risk. Politicians and bankers do not like risk that much. Syria is an old dog-eared card they lost a chance to play, and so what's next? If they do anything to divert the public in the near future, it will be something smaller but will be designed to create the same effect as the Oklahoma City bombing. But there's another obstacle for them. With the advent of social media and independent news, it's hard for them to gain monopoly over the news. And sure, things were spotty due to cell towers, but this has also taught a lot of lessons to independent media. To step their game up with comms and live feeds, and you can bet that that is going to occur. Another thing against them is they do not have the benefit of needing translators to tell the public what the enemy is saying. So it becomes he said, she said. Once again, no monopoly on the media to drive the public opinion. The people speak for themselves and can obviously be seen doing exactly the opposite of what they are accused of. The one thing that would really cause a lot of problems, and I think this is important for everybody to pay attention to, and keep them from losing the ability to survive at a higher percentage and place the blame on the militia, would be some lone wolf sniper taking out the executive branch. That would do some things. It would give justification for immediate gun control. It would give them the immediate reason to hunt down anyone remotely resembling militia, and would probably piss off the black population to a large degree and cause race riots and eventually just spiral into a war, complete civil unrest. And that is what we have to keep our eyes and ears open to prevent, if at all possible. Just my thoughts on what you posted and how it ties into current events from my perspective. Anyway, think about that. And I'll talk to you later.